didn't know. I don't know that the thread's going to go on forever, but the best thing I can do is show up as if it is.
Welcome back to Deeply Connected with Ludmila Woodruff. And again, I have a special guest, my fabulous husband, Douglas Woodruff. Welcome back, honey.
Thank you for having me again.
It's always so fun, so much fun, and enjoy those moments together. And I think we can bring a lot of awareness to relationships, especially married couples after kids, because that addition to the relationship really changes the dynamic. And let's start there, because I, as we know, coach a lot of women. Most of my clients are women. And what I hear very often is that everything is great, or, we find ourselves happier in a marriage or relationship before there are kids. And then the kids enter the scene and the container, and the dynamic shifts. Would you agree? There is a
For sure it changes. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. For me, as a woman, I don't know about yourself, maybe you can share in a moment, but for me as a woman, when I became a mom and I thought this is the best time of my life, that's what my mom told me. Thank you, Mom. I had high expectations of how I will be feeling. And I remember the first few months were kind of okay, but I was sleep deprived. I remember our firstborn wasn't sleeping much. He had a colic, and I was really struggling with sleep deprivation, and you were working full time and doing MBA, and we both agreed to that in that timeline. So there was a lot of me carrying the sleep feeding. You would help me sometimes in the evening where you were home, but I felt really like hanging by a string at some point, and I struggled with my identity. I looked in the mirror at some point and I thought to myself, who is this person? I don't recognize her. I was so disconnected from myself in what is supposed to be the best part of your life when you become a parent, apparently. And so I know when we, walk towards the altar, or, towards the moment when we say, yes, I do, for the better and the worst, I don't know how much we really pay attention as a couple that we are saying yes also to the worst moments of our being. Because we are so excited about getting married and the love, and then the reality, reality starts and we build life together. And I was really struggling. And I remember that I wasn't fully myself, that I wasn't this energetic, happy person. And I was trying to figure out what's going on with me, but also feeling very depleted. How was it for you as my husband to be with me in the relationship when I was not at my best?
Yeah, that's a big question. I was thinking there's at least two elements of that. One is just when you don't want to, when I didn't want to. There were times when I didn't, when it was difficult. Yeah. Still, I was committed just to keep showing up to the best I could. Right, to just keep showing up, and also to try to take care of myself so I show up in a good way. I think there was, at that point, enough maturity for myself to just keep trying to show up. I think the other piece of it was I believed that it was a temporary situation. I think it's a little bit hard for me to remember too clearly. I always remember of somebody I knew that I looked to as a mentor. At one point, many years ago, I asked him about his wife. I knew his wife, but she wasn't there at the time. We saw each other once every few months, and at that time, she wasn't with him. And I said, "Oh, how was your wife?" And he said, "Oh, she's going through a lot right now with the children and with the kids, and something I don't know. I don't remember. This was a long time ago." But he said something to the effect that I trust, I believe, I have faith. I don't remember his words, but I believe she has what she needs to get through this period, and I'm going to just hold the space for her through this. I mean, not just. I hold the space. I love her, and he just exuded this sense of trust in the situation. I didn't realize it at the time. I think, though, I've thought back on that moment many times, and when you've had that period you're talking about, I think I knew that you just needed me to be there. Like, I couldn't fix it. I knew I couldn't fix it. I knew that it was going to change, because it already had, so it'll change again. And I just needed to be there and show up, love, keep doing what I needed to do, which was providing for the family and working, right? Like I was clear that these were these priorities. And I just had to have the space, but I didn't feel like I had to fix it. I just felt I had to be there. So I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but it wasn't easy, of course.
What was challenging about that period?
Well, it's not all, roses and candy, right? It's not pleasant all the time. You're not coming maybe home in the evening to a perfect situation. You're coming home to a child and that's upset, and maybe at the end of his end, and the wife that's the same, and you've been dealing with work all day, and you got to come in and deal with this too, and somehow try to be a calming force in this bit of chaos. So it's more work in a way, right? I don't know that I often lost the thread that this was a temporary thing, though. I believed in you pulling yourself out of it. I believed in the kind of an arc of this, or a dip of this, and moving on beyond that. I didn't know, of course, what it would look like or how it would go, but I did believe in that.
Wow. That's so beautiful. Because I think what you are pointing to is one fact that when your spouse is struggling, you can see them being anxious or overwhelmed or whatever is happening for them. Just knowing and trusting that this person has what it needs to figure it out, that you cannot fix it for them. So it's not your responsibility now to take on their stress, right? Like, imagine if you would take on my stress and my struggle, then we are both spiraling down. But also your ability to be this.
I think the goal is to not do any damage first, right? And to help where you can. It's a weird thing to talk about in terms of your partnership. But it comes down to that, because there's only so much any one person can do.
But I think this conversation is very needed, because what I hear with my clients, what happens is, we have a dynamic going, and then the kids come in. And let's say we are running business or working hard, very high demanding jobs. I would say almost every couple, not every couple, but it happens in some periods of times and seasons where one of the partners can feel a little bit off, right? So somebody loses a child, or somebody loses a parent, or
those are big things.
Big things. Somebody loses the job, or the business doesn't go well. Or specifically with business owners, what I see when a man, the wife and a husband can be working in a business, but if a man, for example, cannot hold, what I see with my clients, if the man gets overwhelmed and the man gets anxious and all over the place, let's say, because he doesn't know what's going to happen, and he's the provider, and he feels like there is a lot to carry.
Yeah, that's hard.
That is hard, and I understand. Very often women try to jump in and fix, and that's not a great space to be in. What you speak to, not to fix the partner, not to try to solve for it. I hear it a lot. Sometimes women that talk to me say, I love my partner, but what I'm feeling is that no matter how much mental mindset work he does, there is a part that's emotional that's not being addressed. And so the emotions or the shutting down is happening, and I don't want to lose the connection, because I'm the feminine and I really thrive on connection and love. And it seems in those moments of stress with the kids, with the business, with something, the men sometimes, or the women, it really depends, right? Because we have women also that go into emotional states, right? One partner starts wearing off, and the other one is trying to fix for it and is being in a very fearful. That's what I see. People get in a very fearful state and worried that the relationship will go sideways because there is loss of connection.
Yeah, what I hear in what you're saying is the dream would be that both partners are willing to be emotionally available and vulnerable, even at the difficult times.
Yes, that part. And you are so, I always appreciate how when we talk, you can really zone in on what I'm trying to say, because sometimes I'm using a lot of words, because it's okay, I'm feminine. But this is what you say, that both partners can communicate and have hard conversations when things get hard.
Well, what I was saying was a little different,
Okay.
but that's also important, right? I think it's important that we have those hard conversations and we communicate the best we can, and we're all learning on that. And we don't, as we said before, sweep things under the rug too much so that it doesn't build and fester and get moldy and nasty and still sit there smelling bad. It needs to get out in the open and so that when the opportunity presents itself and you have half an hour without the kids crying, that you can be emotionally available for your partner. So it's kind of like a sequence, right? Where we need to get the mental stuff, the thoughts, the projections, the resentments, those caustic emotions, those caustic things, whatever they are, thoughts, feelings, whatever they are. We got to be able to get those out, either with each other or with a friend or somehow, or with a punching bag, whatever a person takes to get them out, so that when we are together, sometimes we can still be emotionally available for each other. I think that's really critical.
That's critical, but what I see when I'm coaching women and I'm coaching couples, it's very challenging, because what I think happens when the children go into the space of our relationship, and we talked about it on the parenting episode, our own unsolved wounding and
so that's another piece along the way, right?
Exactly. So that comes to the surface, and what I see happens with a lot of people is that, you know, now we have kids, now I mirrored a lot of things within myself, but I don't even pay attention because I don't know it's a message for me, right? And so we just keep going in this way.
Yeah, we have to see all of this as learning.
Right? I know it's all of this is learning, but if I'm unaware that I have, let's say, communication challenges, that I'm unaware that I'm emotionally unavailable and uncomfortable with expressing myself and uncomfortable with voicing what I need, goes for both men and women. Both men and I see it in both genders, just people in general, no matter your gender. And when we add kids, what I see is the problems you had or challenges before kids now are exaggerated, work or extended family, and now people find themselves in those moments when I see my husband or, you know, overextended, or my wife emotional, and, you know, I was in that situation, and I hear this fear of loss of connection in the relationship, right? So how did you still, how did you feel connected to me and still knew that we are here together, I'm not going anywhere, you are not going anywhere, and my state, what is happening right now, it's not going to damage that connection and relationship and commitment? I think that's what a lot of people struggle with.
I don't know if you ever really know that. And you just show up anyway. I don't know, you never really know. There's no guarantees or anything, right? You show up anyway. I don't know that the thread's going to go on forever, but the best thing I can do is show up as if it is. The best thing I can do is show up in this moment with presence, as it is, whatever's going on today, whatever's going on now, and treat this moment as, you know, hold the sacred space, whatever words we like to use, and hold the crucible or the bowl for the relationship, that we're going to get through that. It's a bit of a choice, right? But if you start off thinking, keeping a door in the back foot, then it's only the door going to get bigger and bigger.
Oh, can you speak more to that? Because I think we are
Probably.
so clear. Probably. If you smile at me nicely. This is because I know you, right? So first of all, we've been together for 13 years, 12 years married, 2 kids. We moved 3 times now. I moved to another country, right? We moved from Belgium to America. I had to find my way here. So it is not, your dad passed away, right? My mom is 87. She's not really doing well in Europe. So it's not that our life has been very easy all the time. We had a lot of challenges and changes. So when we are talking about how to stay connected, we are not selling you a story that, you know, every day we wake up and everything is fantastic, right? But we choose how we want to think about it, and we choose how we want to think about our relationship. I think I know you as a person so well that I know your values, not that you just say my values is commitment or deep commitment to my wife and our relationship. I just know that you embody it. You don't even have to say it. I know That's who you are. So the question might sound very simplistic, but if people feel like, I feel this disconnection from my partner and I see he or she struggling, and I'm starting to be afraid for what is going to happen with my marriage, right? Like, I want him to see me, I want him to understand me, and I want her to be more gracious with me and think of me. So number one, how can someone overcome that in a way that is more productive for the marriage, in a way, right, and supportive of the marriage? But also, is there a way to tell, in your mind, is there a way to tell your partner that, you know, you can help them in a way, and maybe they can look for somebody and some support? Is there a moment
that I can't help you, for example?
Right. So I love you, but I don't know how to solve for this, and maybe there is a moment that you need to talk to somebody because I love you.
Of course. We probably should encourage that in each other often. Right? Because we're not equipped to solve all of the issues that our partner may have. We really need to be there for them, but we also owe our partner to be able to go out and get help where we need it, if we need it from other people. It's a real burden to expect my partner to be able to help me with all that I might have going on. Yeah, it's important to understand the limits of that. And you know, your partnership, isn't your therapist, isn't the person that's, I don't want to say it's not their job. Our job is to help each other. But it's not, I think it's important that we look for help in some things and others as well.
So that's one. And then, thank you. And then what would you say to people that say, I see my partner going through this and I'm being afraid. I'm in this state of fear. What will happen? Especially for women, what I see, but men too. I'm fearful for the connection, that it will dissolve if he or she doesn't get any support. And it's a real fear for many people.
Yeah, that's a real fear. And I mean, all that if it's a woman, all that person can do is, one, is go inward and ask, where is that fear coming from, right? Because it could be pointing to their own insecurities and their own abandonment, or that's their fear, right? So where's that coming from is important. It could be coming from a situation in that relationship, right? It could be an honest sensing of a risk. And the other one thing is, there are no guarantees, right? So there is risk, and then there's the feeling from the person that we need to understand where it comes from, and then of course, when the time is right, and when there is a connection, and when there's a safe place to share that with the partner as well, but not in an accusing way, but in a way of, this is how I feel. I don't want it to, I love you. I don't want to go anything to happen to this and but I think the first step is to know within oneself where that feeling is coming from, and to explore that.
I understand that. So good, by the way, so good. So first, inwards, understanding your own fears, where they're coming from. Is it something from your childhood, from your own sense maybe of not feeling worthy enough, or being...
What's the story that I'm telling myself that's kind of that's associated with that feeling?
Yeah, this is very interesting, because after having kids, and as we say, we are busy, right, working, it seems like the space that we are not stressed out, that we are not with the kids, is so much less than it used to be, of course, before having them.
It is a lot less.
It is a lot less. And both parties carry much more after having kids. And what I often see is the communication challenges. So I can see both people love each other, but because of their own unresolved issues or their own communication styles, I can be very passive. For a lot of women, as we say, I was reminded today that sometimes I speak what some women don't speak out loud, and sometimes we get really, really resentful, and we think that men have it better than us in many ways, and we don't speak it out, that our needs are not being met, and we come swinging with baseball bats in our communication. So what I see often happens is people talk at each other, but they don't talk with each other, to each other. So they keep talking, but they keep missing each other. And that becomes a huge problem. It becomes, you don't hear me, I'm not being seen. It comes back to this main pain points that we all, have, not being loved, accepted, rejected, dismissed. And so after having kids, what I'm noticing is this type of miscommunication happens more often when we are under stress and we are both kind of spread thin. What would you tell the men? And what would you tell the women when we are trying to have those conversations that seem difficult, or, if we don't feel heard or seen by the other?
There's a lot of different, I think there's a lot of different solutions to any problem. And I'm thinking, buy flowers and bring flowers home and start a conversation. Thinking, get help, get somebody that you can speak to, either individually or together, the three. Make time for each other. I think that, the really to consciously set time aside together to allow a space where you can get out of that pattern of throwing knives at each other. That's what you were saying, right? When throwing knives or you say coming out with bats, right? At some point, you probably need to get some help with that, right? Because we get in patterns and we only know how to relate in a certain way. And maybe we need a little bit of help to shift that. Maybe we can shift it ourselves just by getting together in a different environment or trying something different. But don't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And it's going to take work. I think it's really critical to recognize it's going to take work from both people. I think it's really hard if one person is willing to put a lot of effort into it and the other person, for whatever reason, isn't wanting to look at the situation and put effort into it. What one person sees as effort, one person might not see it as effort while the other one is trying. So you have to be really honest about that as well.
It happens a lot. I want to say that it happens a lot that when we are in this dysregulated state and we are already in defense fight.
But that's the first part, is to recognize it's a dysregulated state and there is a path I need to find to get a better regulated state. And each one of us has to do that ourselves individually. And that doesn't take the other person. That we have to do ourselves. And by one person changing, that can already have a massive effect on the other person.
Yeah, because I see it exactly what you said. A lot of times when women or men are in this regulated state and they feel under attack or defensive, or they want to just shut down, no matter what the other partner does, it just goes unnoticed. And then when I ask more questions, I can see the ways that the other comes forward. Like I hear it often, like I'm trying and I'm asking for time and I'm trying to engage a conversation, and we just like give a cold shoulder, or we ignore, or we disengage, or we don't even notice. And those small moments, we call it like the bits of love. I'm coming towards you and I'm offering you love and connection. And every time I'm coming towards you and you dismiss me, or you reject me, or you turn away from me, it makes me less, not even willing, but now I will have to be able to, be with the pain of rejection every time I'm coming towards you. So it's maybe sometimes there we need some help to get another perspective on the situation in order to not unintentionally hurt the other person. Yeah, I completely agree, because when I see couples, let's say together, first separately and then maybe together, I hear very different stories sometimes, because the perspective is very different, and expectations and the hurt feelings or desires. And then when I hear from both people, I can see two people that love each other and they just don't know how to all let go of being right, let go of being defensive or argumentative, being flexible maybe. Also being open, like vulnerable. It's hard for so many people, because if you haven't been supported in your previous relationships or in your childhood and able to express your emotions, it is really hard for so many of you to do that in most intimate relationship, right? Because, and then when we add to it all the post honeymoon life realities and children and work
at any given time, some of that's not going well. It can be really difficult because we all only have so many skills, and we also have to give ourselves a little break sometimes and some grace and try again.
And try again. And I think giving the grace, I think we have for each other as well. I think we practice that, to be graceful instead of getting angry. And sometimes we still get angry. Sometimes we still get in some arguments. And another thing to understand, that having arguments in a relationship is not unhealthy. How you deal with the arguments.
Don't sweep it under the rug.
Don't sweep it. Please throw away your broom. Don't sweep it under the rug. But what I hear, what I see us going through is just this willingness to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Willingness to be uncomfortable because we know what's at stake. But not also that, and it's also the commitment.
I think it's a commitment for growth, ultimately.
Commitment for growth.
A commitment to the relationship, a commitment for growth, a commitment to live, ultimately a commitment, from my side, a commitment to live with more peace and harmony, and knowing that it's only through dealing with these things that we'll come back to that. And it absolutely gets harder with all the dynamics of children and career and everything in our lives than it was when we were just the two of us living in a little apartment somewhere.
I know, having so much time.
Yeah, it's a different time.
And I also advise, sometimes the couple can really reignite just by taking a weekend away. It's amazing what it can do. I give them questions and I give them ways to connect. And I hear from my clients, that was the best idea. We went away without any kids and we could reignite that's always there. It's just sometimes buried under the everyday life.
Yeah, you got to get out of the way sometimes.
Get out of the way sometimes. Yeah. So I just want to thank you again for being in the space with me. I appreciate you as my life partner. I'm happy to just do this live with you. So I hope this was supportive and helpful. I just want you to know that even if you're in a space in your marriage or relationship that feels hard, that feels like you cannot understand each other, you feel like you speak to him and he doesn't get you, you are not feeling felt, or he might be feeling like you don't understand him, and you are finding yourself in this constant conflict that looks the same and the same and the same, and you are losing your mind and thinking, can I stay in this marriage? When is the time to stay or leave? How can I make it better? I'm afraid for the connection because we love each other and we have kids. We don't want to separate. I just want you to know you are not alone. More people than not are challenged and struggling with this type of challenges. And know that there is help, there is support, and when there is a will, there is a way. And may we stay deeply connected to ourselves and those around us.